Common wisdom is you have to gain a little fat to gain muscle. It's the whole bulking and cutting mentality. Well, I'm here to tell you this is wrong, at least for most people. You can gain muscle and lose fat at the same time. In this video, I'll show you how. A big part of the problem is that people have unrealistic expectations about how fast you can gain muscle. And because of this, they come to the incorrect conclusion that you can't gain muscle and lose fat at the same time. Most mature adults can gain at most 15 pounds muscle in a year. That's about 1.25 pounds a month. And that's really slow no matter how you cut it. In rough numbers, to gain that 1.25 pounds of muscle, you would need to consume about an extra 3,000 calories during that month, or about an extra 100 calories a day. It's not much extra. Now let's talk about losing fat. You lose fat by consuming fewer calories than you burn off in a day. So to lose fat, you have to eat less. How much less? For an average person dieting, it's about 300 calories a day less. So now let's put the two together, gaining muscle and losing fat. Now your first thought is probably that it's not possible. Because on the one hand, I said you need to eat 100 calories more a day to gain your muscle and 300 calories less a day to lose your fat. You can't eat more and less at the same time, right? Well, the secret to the solution here is that the assumption that you need to eat more calories to gain muscle is incorrect, at least for most adults. Let's first look at what the body does with the calories you consume. A whopping 25% of the energy goes to your brain. 50% is housekeeping stuff to keep us alive. Breathing, pumping blood, maintaining body temperature, and so on. It's only down here where stuff gets interesting. About 20% is actually spent doing stuff. Walking, lifting weights, moving around. And only about 5% is spent adding muscle. Don't get hung up on the exact numbers. The important thing is that exercise and building muscle uses up very little of the calories we consume. To keep you alive, your body needs two things: plain energy to burn in the form of carbs or fat, and then amino acids in the form of protein. Your body has an amazing series of backup systems to keep you alive should food be scarce. Your stomach is the gas tank for ordinary use. Your body fat is the backup generator to be turned on when food is scarce. And your muscles are the emergency backup. Your body won't turn on this nuclear reactor to cannibalize your muscle unless it's a dire emergency. Energy can come from any of these three systems, but the amino acids can only come from the stomach or your muscles. Let's talk about this nuclear reactor here and how to stop it from being used. Our bodies are really smart. They know that muscle is really important and they won't burn it unless they absolutely have to. There are 3 occasions your body will fire up this nuclear reactor. First, if it needs energy to stay alive that is not available from the stomach or the fat stores. Basically, if you don't have enough fat or food. The second way it'll fire up is if the body does not have enough amino acids to stay alive. The only place it can find these amino acids are the food in your stomach, not in the fat stores. So if you haven't eaten enough protein, it's going to cannibalize your muscle. The third way it'll burn your muscle is if it's afraid you're starving. If you cut your calories too drastically, your body will get confused and think you're starving and start burning up your muscle. Now, I didn't go through all of that just so I could showcase my exquisite art. There's a point. The question at hand is how can we gain muscle and lose fat at the same time? We do this by making sure we consume enough protein. Roughly 40% of our calories are going to come from protein. That's to ensure that our nuclear reactor does not come on and start burning protein. The other 60% of our calories are going to come from 2 places. They're going to come from our stomach and what we ate, but we're going to have a slight calorie deficit. So the rest of our caloric needs are going to come from our fat stores. So that's how we're going to gain muscle and lose fat at the same time, by consuming enough protein and having a very slight caloric deficit so our fat stores are used. So let's talk about the specifics of how you gain muscle and lose fat at the same time. 5 specific things you need to do. The first we already talked a little about, and that's getting enough protein. 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight per day. And not all in one sitting. Your body cannot store protein. If you eat all your protein in one glob, your nuclear reactor is going to turn on 3 hours later and start burning your muscles. You can't do that. Divide your protein in 5 or 6 equal doses and spread it out evenly throughout the day. The second thing we already talked about too, and that's your caloric intake. Set it at a slight deficit, maybe 5 or 10% below your energy needs for the day. This will cause your fat stores to slowly be used without affecting your ability to add muscle. While we're on the subject of calories, the third thing is you need to make every single calorie count. You need to eat lots of vegetables. You need to make sure you don't consume any bad fats or simple carbs. If you want to eat cheeseburgers, that's great, but you are not going to lose fat while you're gaining muscle if you're eating cheeseburgers. The fourth thing, which is pretty obvious, if you want to gain muscle, you need to work out with high intensity and consistency. And the fifth thing, you need to do daily cardio, 30 to 40 minutes. Cardio does not burn muscle. You need this so that you can gain muscle and lose fat at the same time. Now, just so I don't get flamed by everyone, let's talk about the 2 groups of people who cannot gain muscle and lose fat at the same time. The first group is advanced bodybuilders. Many of the advanced bodybuilders have already reached their genetic potential or very close to it. They cannot add muscle under any circumstances, and they certainly can't add it when they're losing fat at the same time. The only people who can gain muscle and lose fat at the same time are beginning bodybuilders and intermediate bodybuilders. The second group of people who can't gain muscle and lose fat at the same time are people who are skinny already, say under 8 or 10% body fat. And this includes teens who are perpetually skinny and can't seem to gain fat no matter what they stuff in their face. Your body needs some minimum percentage of body fat, and if you try to drop below that, it's going to fight like the dickens to keep it and probably end up burning your muscles to preserve the body fat it thinks it needs. This can be where carb cycling fits in, but if you're too lean, you're not going to be able to gain muscle and lose fat under most circumstances. So yes, most people can gain muscle and lose fat at the same time. It's all about nutrition, hard workouts, and cardio. One of the most common questions I get from beginners is they ask, should I lose my fat first or should I work out first and get muscle? The answer is do both at the same time, especially for beginners. It's very easy to lose fat and gain muscle at the same time. Alles klar? Auf Wiedersehen.